For more than 4 decades, one man left his DNA at crime scenes across California and walked away every single time. Not because he was careless, because the science that could catch him hadn't been invented yet. He knew that. He was a criminal justice graduate. He was, for a time, a police officer himself. And when he was finally arrested in April 2018, it wasn't a fingerprint that got him, or a tip, or a confession. It was a distant cousin who uploaded her spit to a free genealogy website because she wanted to find out where her great-great-grandparents came from. This is the story of the Golden State Killer and the strange, unglamorous science that finally cracked a case decades of detectives couldn't. Between June 1975 and May 1986, a series of break-ins, rapes, and murders terrorized communities across California. Investigators eventually linked at least 12 murders and 45 rapes to a single offender, a man who studied his victims' homes in advance, who tied his victims up in their own bedrooms, who sometimes called them years later just to remind them he was still out there. For decades, he had no name. Investigators called him the East Area Rapist. Later, a crime writer gave him the name that stuck, the Golden State Killer. And then, in the mid-1980s, he simply stopped. No arrest, no death notice. He just went quiet. And an entire generation of detectives spent their careers chasing a ghost. Here's the part that surprises people. DNA testing existed for most of that time. Investigators had his genetic profile sitting in evidence storage for years. So why didn't a DNA match crack the case decades ago? Because DNA databases don't work the way television makes you think. The FBI's national database, CODIS, only works if a suspect's profile is already inside it, meaning he'd have to have been arrested before, tested, and logged. The Golden State Killer never was. Detectives could run his DNA against every convicted felon in the country and get nothing back, forever, because the one profile they needed simply wasn't in that pool. A perfect, untraceable void, right up until 2017, when investigators tried something almost nobody in law enforcement had tried before. Instead of searching a police database, they turned to the public, specifically to a website called GDmatch, a free tool built for hobbyist genealogists, ordinary people trying to trace their own family trees, find long-lost relatives, fill in the blanks on an ancestry chart. It was never built for police work. Investigators uploaded the killer's DNA profile, taken from an intact rape kit, preserved from a 1980 attack in Ventura County, into that same public pool. What came back wasn't a name. It wasn't even close. Close relatives, siblings, parents, first cousins are almost never sitting in a hobbyist database by coincidence. What the search returned instead was 10 to 20 distant relatives, mostly third cousins, people who shared only a small sliver of DNA with the killer and had no idea they were connected to anything at all. That's when the real work started, and it looked nothing like a crime lab. A team of 5 investigators working alongside genetic genealogist Barbara Ray Venter began building family trees by the hand. Genealogist C.C. Moore later confirmed the team was specifically studying third cousin matches, tracing branches backward through marriage records, obituaries, and census data to find a shared ancestor from generations ago, then walking the tree forward again, branch by branch, toward the present day. Weeks of this, not a computer, spitting out a suspect. Painstaking, manual detective work, using the same tools amateur genealogists use to build a Christmas dinner family tree, except this tree was being built to catch a serial killer. Slowly, the branches narrowed. Eventually, one name kept surviving every elimination: Joseph James DeAngelo, a 72-year-old man living a quiet life in Citrus Heights, California. A grandfather, a former police officer, fired decades earlier from one department after being caught shoplifting. Nobody had ever seriously suspected him. He wasn't on a watch list. He wasn't a person of interest. He was just a name at the end of a very long, very quiet piece of string. But a name from a family tree isn't proof, and investigators knew a courtroom would never accept a distant genealogical match as evidence. So they did something almost mundane. They watched him. And when he threw something away, reportedly a discarded item like a cup or a piece of trash from outside his home, they collected it, extracted the DNA, and ran it directly against the crime scene profile. It matched. Not a distant, diluted, third cousin kind of match, a direct one. On April 24, 2018, DeAngelo was arrested at that same quiet house in Citrus Heights. The man behind attacks that began before some of the detectives who caught him were even born. And here's the detail that makes the whole case feel almost designed by fate. DNA fingerprinting as a forensic tool was developed and first used in criminal investigations in 1986, the very same year DeAngelo's last known attack occurred. Investigators and experts believe he likely knew in real time that the science was catching up to him. A man trained in criminal justice who had worn a badge himself, watching the one thing that could expose him get invented in the same year he went quiet. He didn't get away with it forever. He just outran the science by exactly as long as the science took to be born, and then 32 more years until a different kind of science, one built for family reunions, caught up with him instead. But this breakthrough came with a cost nobody fully saw coming. GEDmatch had over 1 million users at the time, almost all of whom uploaded their DNA hoping to find a lost relative or trace their heritage. Not expecting police to comb through their family trees looking for a killer. When that became public knowledge, the backlash was immediate. In 2019, GEDmatch changed its policy, requiring users to explicitly opt in before their profile could be searched by law enforcement. Overnight, the pool investigators could legally search dropped from more than 1 million profiles to effectively 0. The exact tool that cracked one of America's most notorious cold cases became, almost instantly, far harder to use again. Which leaves an uncomfortable question hanging over every unsolved case since: how many other killers are sitting in plain sight right now, protected not by a lack of evidence, but by a privacy setting? The Golden State Killer was undone by a distant cousin's curiosity about where her family came from. The next cold case to break this way needs the same accident of curiosity to happen again. And after 2019, the odds of that got a lot longer. DeAngelo ultimately pleaded guilty to 13 murders and dozens of other charges, avoiding trial and the death penalty. But the case didn't just close a decades-old file. It rewrote the rulebook for how cold cases could be solved, and opened a debate about genetic privacy that's still unresolved today. If this is the kind of case that keeps you up, thinking about what technology can still uncover, subscribe to Unsolved Files. Next episode, we open another file that sat cold for decades until one piece of evidence nobody expected finally talked.